Today we're going to be learning Perek Bet Mishnah Aleph in Sukkah. In this Mishnah we have a case that's stated, a story that tries to disprove the halacha that's stated, a story that reproves or disproves the story, and then ultimately a conclusion to this particular halacha. Let's take a look at the Mishnah. Hayashin, one who sleeps, tachat hamita, under bed basukah, in a sukkah. So fellow decides that he's really tired, he's going to sleep under his bed in the sukkah. Lo yatsi de chavato, he has not fulfilled his obligation. Lo yatsi de chavato means he has not fulfilled his obligation. Rabbi Yehuda says, I have a story that proves that it's okay to sleep under your sukkah on Sukkot. What's the story? Nohagin hayinu, we used to be accustomed, something that we used to do is the following. Shehayinu yishenim tachat hamita, we would sleep under our bed in the sukkah, obviously. Before the zikanim, the elders, the rabbis would come to visit, and we would be sleeping under the bed. V'lo amru lanu davar, they didn't say anything to us. They never said it's not okay to sleep under the bed. So there are a couple of side conversations which we could have. One would be whether or not it's okay to wake somebody up. They didn't want to wake, maybe. The other is that they were children. Maybe that's why they didn't tell them anything. But Rabbi Yehuda says from here you see that it's okay to sleep under the sukkah, under the bed in the sukkah, and you'd fulfill your mitzvah. Rabbi Shimon says, wait a minute. There are so many different reasons why that could have been, but I have a story that proves that you are not fulfilling your mitzvah when you sleep under the sukkah. Why? Ma'aseh, it happened. Ma'aseh means a story. Ma'aseh, it happened. B'tevi avdo shel Rabban Gamliel, with Tevi, who was the very famous servant, the slave of Rabban Gamliel, shahayu yashen tachat hamita, that he was sleeping under the bed on Sukkot, in the sukkah. V'amar lahen Rabban Gamliel zikanim. Rabban Gamliel said to the zikanim, to the elders who were there visiting. Rabban means that he was the nasi. The word Rabban implies that he was a nasi, he was a leader. So he said to the zikanim, Reitem Tevi avdi, do you see Tevi, my servant? Shahayu Talmud Chacham, Shehu Talmud Chacham, that he is very wise, he's very learned. As we know from learning in Mishnah and Gemara, we find in many, many stories and cases where he comes up. He was extremely knowledgeable and learned in Torah. And the halacha is that an eved, a slave that belongs to a Jewish family, has halachot of certain of the mitzvot. They're obligated in keeping all the lo ta'asehs and all the asehs that don't have, most of the asehs that don't have time constraints. Obviously, the servant's most important thing is serving their master. So for them, the first and most important thing is serving a master. And beyond that, they're still obligated in certain mitzvot of the Torah. And by the way, the halacha is that a freed servant, a slave who was a slave and then becomes free, has all the halachot of being Yisrael, of being Jewish, and has to keep all the mitzvah. So Tevi was sleeping under the bed, and Rabbi Gamliel said, look at Tevi, you see Tevi, my servant, he knows all the halachot, v'yodea, and he knows, she'avadim, that servants, the slaves, piturim, is the opposite of chayiv, piturim, are exempt, they don't have the mitzvah of min ha-sukkah, of sleeping, of living in a sukkah. The general mitzvah of sukkah is yeshivat sukkah, to live, to eat, to sleep in a sukkah. That is a time-bound mitzvah because it only applies 7 days of the year. It only applies during certain parts of the year. And therefore Tevi, as would every other servant, would not be obligated in this mitzvah. And since Tevi knew that, therefore he had no problem sleeping under the bed in the sukkah. Lefichach yoshen hu tachat hamita. Therefore he's sleeping under the sukkah because he knows he doesn't have a mitzvah to sleep in the sukkah. The Mishnah concludes, and according to this we learn that one who sleeps under a bed has not fulfilled his obligations. The Mishnah concludes that sleeping under a bed is not a way to fulfill a mitzvah. And we discussed a little bit that that bed would have to be more than 10 tefachim off the ground. If it was less than 10 tefachim off the ground, that wouldn't be a problem because that wouldn't really change, it wouldn't make it a separate entity. But once it's a certain height, it becomes its own roof and it separates from the sukkah. It becomes a chatzitza, separation between the schach and the sukkah itself. Have an awesome day.